Hello guys, and welcome back to my LWJGL game library tutorial series. And in the previous ones, we set up the main game logic loop, and we also initialized OpenGL. This time, we are going to create a player and have them move around the screen. Before we do that though, you should know that the current way that we have the engine is it's incredibly frame rate focused when it comes to movement. A player with a slower FPS is actually going to move across the screen slower than somebody with a faster FPS. So instead, a way to fix that is we just get the delta of the difference in time between each frame, and then we put that into account when we want to move objects around. So first, above the try-catch statement in the main game loop, we're going to add a couple new variables. We're going to add the start time, and that's going to be equal to system.currentTime millis. And then we're also going to add the C time, which is the cumulative time, which is just right now we're going to make it equal to start time. And then within our while loop, right at the very top of it, we're going to add a third variable, which is going to be our delta, and that's going to be equal to system.currentTime millis minus the C time. Now we do C time plus equal delta. And there we go. Now within our update, we can call delta and also call it within our input as well. Now in input, we want to accept it long delta, and in update, long delta. Now that that's set up, we want to create the player. So right-click the package that you named for your main class, and go to New, and go to Class. We're going to call it the player. In this one, we're going to give them a couple variables, float x and float y right now. And then we're going to also call the constructor public player. And we want to define x and y in the constructor, so we're going to do that by requesting float x and float y. This dot x equals x, this dot y equals y. And so whenever we create the player, we're going to call those. Now we want to do input, update, and render. So public void input, we can accept long delta. Public void update, we can accept long delta again. And then public void render, we don't need to accept anything for this one. So first what we're going to do is we're just going to create the rendering code. In order to do that, we have to call a couple more OpenGL commands. So do that by typing gl11.gl color 4f, and we're going to set the color of the player here because before we give them an image, we're just going to give them a colored box. So do 0.0 red, 1.0 green, 1.0 blue, and then 1.0 alpha. When you're doing float values for colors, 1 is the highest amount, 0 is the lowest amount, and then you can do decimal places to get as accurate as you need to be. And then, underneath that, we're going to call gl11.gl begin, gl11.gl quads, because we're trying to make a square. And then, a couple lines below that, you can put gl11.gl end. And then, right here we have to put all of the vertices that we're going to be using, all the vertexes. We're going to do gl11.gl vertex 2f, because we only need two values for it. The first one's just going to be x and y. And then we can copy and paste that 3 more times. And now we have to go counterclockwise with the vertices. We'll have one up here, one down here, one over here, and one over here. And then it'll make a square. So, what we're going to do for the next one, that is one down, we are going to do y plus 64 because the player is 64 tall, 64 wide. And then for the one at the bottom right corner, it's going to be x plus 64 and y plus 64. And then the top right is just x plus 64. Alright, now we can go back to our main class, and we need to create a public static array list player, and then we're going to call it players equals new array list player. Basically, we'll have all the players listed here, and then we can use them in our actual game. Within our rendering code, we're actually going to want to in here we're going to put a loop, for loop for player, because that's the type we're using. We're going to call it player, and we're getting it from players. We're going to do player.render. And now inside our initialization code, at the very bottom of that, we're going to put players.add. We're going to create a new player, and within these parentheses we put the coordinates that we want to put it at, which I'm just going to put 50, 50 for now. Now, if we run the application, we'll get a cyan square at coordinate 50, 50. This is our player. Currently cannot control it, but it's being rendered on the screen. Within our input and update methods, we're also going to put a for loop for the player, just like how we did before, except we're going to call player.input in the input one, and then we're going to call player.update in the update one. And there we have it. Now, if we want to give the player controls, we have to head it back over into the actual player one, and right under float x and y, we're going to put another float, which is the speed of the player, and right now we're just going to give it 0.5f. And then within update, this is also relatively simple. If keyboard.isKeyDown, and then we want to use keyboard.key S, or W, I'll start with that. We're going to put, W is Y, so we want to take Y, and we want to subtract the speed times the delta. And that will move the player up, and then we do if keyboard.isKeyDown, keyboard.key S, and then we want to do y minus equals speed times, no, we want to do plus equals speed times delta. Then under this, if keyboard.isKeyDown, keyboard.key D, then we're going to take x and we're going to plus equals speed times delta, and then if keyboard.isKeyDown, keyboard.key A, then we're going to take x and we're going to minus equals speed times delta. Now let's see how this works in game. It's pretty fast speed we've got. Might want to slow it down a little bit. But it works. Just gonna tweak the value a little bit. I'm gonna see if 0.05 is any better. Way too slow. How about 0.1? Also really slow. 0.3? Pretty decent speed right there. Seems good to me. But you'll notice that we can also move off the screen. We'll actually fix this issue in the next tutorial, and we'll start spawning other objects and doing other stuff in the next tutorial. So I guess I'll see you then.